guys, welcome back to another video. This is another basketball reaction, and the video that we're watching today is ranking the greatest big threes in NBA history. By big threes, I assume it means players, so big three players that played in a successful team for a decent amount of time. So for example, and this isn't who I think is going to be in there, but like Curry, Clay and KD playing together, but maybe that wouldn't be considered because they didn't play together for so long. I'm not too sure how he's going to sort of work this out, but we'll see when we get into the video. But the title does seem very, like, I feel like it's going to teach me a lot about the history, I guess. Like, maybe I'm going to learn more about Michael Jordan when he was at Chicago and like the other players that were around him and just things like that. But or even like when Shaq, Kobe were playing for the Lakers, I'll find out about who else was around them back in that time. I'm not too sure who's going to be in here, but I'm interested nevertheless. And quickly, I just want to shout out my Discord. We've nearly got 800 people. Like, I feel like in the next few, maybe the next week or so, we're going to get to 1,000, which is crazy. 1,000 people in a Discord blows my mind. But yo, if you're interested in joining and making it to 1,000, I'd really appreciate it. But yo, it's up to you guys. Obviously, if you're not really into Discord, that's fair enough. But let's get into this video and see. Oh, I think this video was made just before the coronavirus Rudy Gobert stuff happened. That's crazy. It's been over a month because this was made on the 12th of March. Time flies, man. Time flies. But let's get into it and see what's about.
Damn it, Rudy. Ranking the top 10 best
like
big
that.
threes in NBA history.
For his legs.
We did something similar for the best duos of all time, and that video did pretty good, so here we are again. And this video's got a pretty good...
So he's on a duos one as well. Should I do that as well? Like, I've never done like videos like this focused on teams. I don't think I've done a few like focused on the full team, but not like a quadruple or a trio or a double basically. So if you want to see some of that, again, it's new. It'll be new, like completely new to me. But if you want to see it, just let me know in the comments.
Some recent teams to go along with some older teams from a while back, and each team had 3-star players that made up their big three, and led to a lot of success and championships, which made each of these teams some of the greatest in NBA history. We're starting with number 10, then working down to the best big three of all time. But first, we do got to give some honorable mentions to a couple of teams. And I'll say that every team on this list won a championship. So big three's made up of guys like John Stockton, Karl Malone, and Jeff Hornacek that didn't win one, just couldn't make the list. And a few notable championship threes couldn't either, like the Celtics with Paul Pierce, KG, and Ray Allen, or the Kareem, Oscar Robertson, and Bob Dandridge Bucks. Once the video's over though, it's going to make a lot more sense why 10 teams made it over these guys though. So let's start with number 10. In the Cavs with LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love. Now, like I said,
I was going to pause it, but I was thinking because this like there may be some new trios since, or big threes since this video was made, but it's literally been made a month ago, so this should be like as up to date as possible.
There's been way more than 10 great big threes throughout NBA history, but not many more that were actually able to win a championship like these guys did. And that played one of the biggest factors in them making it in the top 10. I mean, having LeBron James was a big enough factor, but still. And Kyrie Irving was at his best in Cleveland and a great second option to LeBron, with that being the only time he's fit in on a team since being in the league. But as a big three as a whole, well, it was more of a big two for most of the time because Kevin Love never found his own role on that team. He was always either the odd man out or injured in the NBA Finals. But still, for as great as these guys were looking back, it's always painful to think about this team because all I can ever think is how terrible the rest of the roster was. And of course,
well, they carry jobs
the
here.
Reputation that they went up against the dominant Warriors for 3 straight finals. Of course, only winning one of them. Who knows though, if the Warriors weren't around and they won more titles, maybe we'd rank this team higher. But that's just not how it
That's a very good point, to be fair.
Like,
you can only really rank like certain teams like from like who they were playing against in a certain time. 4 or 5 years back, if they were together at that point, maybe they would have won more and they'd be considered in a higher sort of light. But that's just how sport works at the end of the day. You can't like sort of do analogies and things like that to consider. You've got to try and just like be fair with it. That's a fair point.
Number 9, the Detroit Pistons with Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, and Bill Laimbeer. And these guys all meshed together perfectly because they all followed along with the mindset of playing dirty and doing whatever it took on defense to get the job done. And that's what made the Pistons who they were. Like, possibly the most hated team of all time. But even with that, there's no denying how good they were. Because they were one of the very last teams to beat Michael Jordan and the Bulls deep in the playoffs, which led to their 2 consecutive championship runs.
Oh wow, so they're competing against the big dogs
on the team, leading the way with one of the greatest all-around games for a point guard that we've ever seen, while Joe Dumars was really comparable to how Klay Thompson was in his Splash Brother days. Because aside from when Dennis Rodman was on the team, he was the team's best overall defender, and had a few seasons shooting 40% from 3 back in the 80s.
So I'm guessing back then in the 80s that was considered very high, right?
History of the league, and the backbone of this trio. And because of this, some people forget how good he actually was as a center in his prime. And before we get to number 8, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor and a product I purchased.
Shout out for getting your money, bro. I'm just going to skip this because that's just what I do. But fair enough, mate. Make your pee. You got to do that.
To number 8. Number 8, the Boston Celtics with Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, and Tom Henson. Now we all know this
Bill
team
Russell
together
sounds
in the
very,
60s,
very familiar.
and in their 7 years together, they won 6 NBA championships.
Oh my
Cousy was a
days.
former MVP, Henson was an All-NBA power forward, and Bill Russell, of course, was right there with Wilt Chamberlain as the best center in the NBA. And with all of that said, some people really do have this trio as their number 1 big 3 of all time, but I couldn't do it for a couple of reasons.
So some people
Not
have them
taking
as
away from
all
what
time.
These guys accomplished, but as we know, the league was a lot different back then.
But he's put them
There
in
was a
8th.
lot less teams, a lot
Oh,
less
true.
competition, and players weren't as good. It was just a different time, and I wanted at least the top 5 to be modern NBA teams. Plus, that's not even to mention just how stacked the rest of the roster really was back then, compared to what the rest of the NBA was at that point.
That's fair
so
enough.
that gave them even more of an advantage. Number 7, the Warriors with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. And
So what I'm getting from that, maybe there's going to be, because this is Draymond Green, these 3. Maybe like when KD came, it's going to be different. They're going to be higher up because I guess people are going to be allowed to be in this twice. I assume that's the case.
yes, we have this team ranked a few spots ahead of LeBron and the Cavs, even though they beat them in their 73-9 season, and what turned out to be their last real season as a trio. But they deserve to be here. These guys, led by Steph Curry, changed the way basketball was played, and they were the perfect complements for each other. Draymond was the perfect small ball big man that did all the little things. Klay stretched the floor and defended better than anyone at the time, and Steph was able to win 2
Steph was just being Steph, bro.
1 unanimous, 2 finals appearances, 1 championship, and led the team to a 73-9 record, while he also had one of the best personal seasons of all time in 2015 and 16. So even though this team and LeBron's Cavs split their 2 final series with each team winning 1, there's still no doubt that this big 3, who the Warriors did draft all 3 of them, meshed way better together than LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love did. Plus, let's not forget all the Cavs' regular season struggles compared to the Warriors, who really dominated all year long. Then number 6 goes to the Heat with LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne.
Okay, so that shows you
And
can
some
have
people
more.
might have been expecting them to be a little higher, but I think
I've heard a bit about this trio and like this big 3. I keep saying trio, big 3. In previous videos, like I don't know much about them, but I've seen like in highlights that just like the commentators will mention like how like these guys, or like a video that I watched from Jimmy High Roller. They always mention that this big 3 at Miami, the Miami Heat. Maybe I should learn more about
it
them.
really made sense, especially considering the fact that the team didn't fully live up to expectations.
Okay,
Don't get me
so they
wrong,
should have
though,
been-
They dominated the regular season in all of their 4 years together, made the finals every single year, and ended up with 2 championships.
Oh,
Plus, don't
so
forget
they're
about their
pretty solid then.
NBA record,
Very solid, sorry.
27-game win streak at one point. There wasn't too much more they could have done, but I mean, they shouldn't have lost to the Mavs, and they barely beat the Spurs the first time around. And for 3 of the best players in the world to join up like they did, when
Okay, so they were-
were teaming up, they really shouldn't have lost some of the games that they did. But also look back and remember just how well these 3 guys ended up playing together. LeBron played like an MVP all 4 years and was still able to win 2 of them. D Wade still averaged over 20 a game, and Chris Bosh ended up
Jeez.
fitting perfectly into the role asked of him. And for all 3 guys to be on the same page like that really says something. Because from all of the failed super teams we've seen throughout league history, and even some of the big 3s in this video so far, not every team's able to mesh as well as these guys eventually did. It was clear LeBron was the leader, Wade had stepped down to the second option, and Bosh to a third option even though he clearly struggled at first. Number 5.
It's very intriguing to me. So they won 2 championships, and he said they went for the 4 seasons they were together. They've reached the finals each time. And he was saying like near the start of like when he was talking about this big 3, about how they could have done better. I mean, I guess that goes to show how good those players really were like back then. Because obviously I'm not too sure about the past players. Like I'm not too familiar with them. But from what he said, I'm taken from it. Like they were all big time players. Like, he said they were the 3 best players at one point. I think.
We have the
Which is
Celtics trio
mad
with Larry
to play them
Bird,
together.
Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish. And
Larry
in the
Bird
modern
and
NBA,
Kay.
this was by far one of the greatest. They played together for nearly all of McHale and Bird's careers, and the majority of
Oh,
Parrish's.
wow.
and together they won 3 NBA championships as a team, while also individually cementing their own legacies. Larry Bird became a 3-time MVP, a 2-time member of the 50-40-90 club, and one of the greatest shooters and all-around players in league history, while McHale became a 2-time 6th Man of the Year, all while being a top power forward on both ends. And Robert Parrish really became the anchor for the team on the defensive end. And it's not often that 3 guys are all put together where their skills perfectly complement each other so much, to the point where each guy could dominate a separate part of the game on a nightly basis.
Take it turns, yeah.
Passing, McHale held the post, and Parrish had the paint under control. And all of this was why they dominated the NBA as a whole. Like I said, they won 3 championships, but overall made the finals 5 times together in their 12 years as teammates.
Oh, okay, so
and they only lost 2 of them because it was against Magic Johnson, Kareem,
probably the
Lakers.
best.
So it makes sense. And speaking of them, that team takes number 4.
Okay, so they're competitive with each other.
Magic Johnson and Kareem alone were a top 2
That
NBA
sounds
duo
like
of
an
all time.
immense
They
duo.
won 2 championships together. But then James Worthy was drafted and officially made them a big 3. And if you don't know too much about James Worthy, he was no joke. The Lakers drafted him 1st overall. He eventually got the nickname Big Game James for coming up in huge important games, which was how
Big
he won
Game
the
James.
1988 Finals MVP. And Larry Bird even said he was the toughest matchup he ever faced in his career.
Wow.
So the Lakers had Magic at point and Kareem at center.
That sounds
then added
such a-
Worthy at small forward.
like
to
such
the
a
wing, and
rude
it was set.
trio.
It gave him a young Magic, a young Worthy, and Kareem, who was a veteran that wasn't as dominant as it used to be, but was just as consistent and gave them the leadership that they needed. So the Showtime Lakers then made the finals 6 out of the 7 seasons after Worthy
Jeez.
joined the team and won 3 of them.
Wow.
And it's safe to
Oh,
say that during
man.
their prime looking back, they had the best point guard of all time, the best center of all time, and a top 10 small forward all on one team. Number 3,
That sounds-
the Spurs with
The
Tim
Spurs,
Duncan,
yes.
Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili. And of course, if it was a Big 4 video, we might have included Kawhi Leonard, but it's not, so it's just these.
You just got these 3, and you just mentioned Kawhi Leonard. That just sounds disgusting. Because Kawhi Leonard is probably one of my favourite players. Not gonna lie, from what I've seen of him, he's crazy. And Tim Duncan as well. And I'm not Ginobili. I can't pronounce his name, but I do really like this team from what I saw in the videos in the past.
And a lot of people had these guys as their number 1 trio of all time.
Oh, mad.
And while I don't have them there, for me they still made the top 3. They all first teamed up in 2002, once Manu Ginobili joined the team last. And before this, Tim Duncan had already established his name and won his own championship with David Robinson. So by 2003, once all these guys got together, he was able to lead them to another one, and once again in 2005, in 2007, and their last one together in 2014.
Shows
They all
loyalty
won
pays off,
playoffs
man.
every single year they were together, and Tim Duncan stayed
Jesus.
consistent for nearly his entire 20-year career, while Manu and Tony really developed into great players every single year. And I would rank this squad higher. I mean, they were together by far the longest out of any trio on the list, and had by far the most years of success. But due to them being in the Spurs system with Greg Popovich, they did have a bit of an advantage. I will say though, it wouldn't have worked without these guys being who they were. Duncan was the silent leader, Tony Parker knew that and took every opportunity to learn from him, while Manu Ginobili took one of the biggest sacrifices anyone ever has in the NBA and came off the bench for the majority of his career.
Oh, wow.
None of them had egos, and if any of them did, this entire thing would
So he sacrificed his own career in a sense
for
the better good of the team.
of all time. Number 2.
That's
again,
intriguing
the
to me.
Warriors with Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant.
Okay, this is what I talk. So second, who's gonna be
The Warriors
first then?
were great, but as I said, LeBron and the Cavs were able to beat them. But once Kevin Durant joined the team, nobody was going to beat this
Unstoppable,
team for as long as they stayed together. If injuries hadn't have happened, this team may never have gotten beaten in a 7-game series, and that's why I had to rank them over the Spurs and the Lakers. And while they had a stacked team with guys like Andre Iguodala, Draymond Green, and
Green's
other
still
great
there,
role
bro.
players, this big 3 made them who they were. I mean, like I mentioned, this team had already established themselves as one of the best overall in the league. Then KD came and it meant the Warriors now had the last 3 league MVPs on their side. And Steph
Jeez.
did take the back seat to KD, which again, not many stars would do. But he was still able to average 26, 6, and 5 for all of their 3 years.
Question: why did KD leave? Was it to do with money? Was it to do with him wanting to be like the main man in the team? Like, what is the reasoning for him to leave? Because surely he would have been there and think, bro, we could win so much together. Like, if they're together for the next 5 years, they're going to dominate the NBA. I'm intrigued to know why that happened, because stuff like that does, like, it just confuses me. But I guess there's obviously going to be a story behind it.
Together. And Klay Thompson rarely touched the ball, but still somehow averaged 20 a game as one of the most
Jeez.
efficient 3-point shooters and best on-ball defenders. All of this easily made them one of the most hated teams in NBA history, and nobody liked it. The whole thing took all the excitement out of the league, but there's no doubt that this iteration of the Golden State Warriors is without a doubt one of the greatest teams of all time. One of the best big threes, and the starting five quite possibly the best we've ever seen. Then there's number 1 with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman.
Oh,
and of course this had...
I didn't even realize that Rodman and Jordan played together. Okay.
The number 1 spot. The Bulls were unstoppable from 1990 to 93 when they three-peated the first time. They won 3 in a row and nobody was even slowing them down because they had the best player in the league and one of the best defenders in the league. But then came 1995 when they added Dennis Rodman, who was the best overall defender and the best rebounder by far. And adding him to the team created the greatest.
That looks so brutal together, bro.
I mean, if they weren't unstoppable enough already, it just made things unfair. They'd go on to have a 72-10 season, winning the championship and 2 more after that, going 3-0 as a group. And you could put these guys in any era and they would dominate. And I know some rankings on this list might be debatable or controversial, but if they are, give your thoughts on who should have ended up where. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe.
Shout out, man. This is a... I want to get to that picture quickly. And I see Kobe. I assume Kobe and Shaq, when they're playing together, they were just like a big duo from, like, because obviously I'm guessing that they were just like 2 players, not like a 3 big duo. But I want to see this picture. They look so like... I want to see the one that they just look so... This picture, bro. This just looks like a sort of a picture that you would see of like the best players of all time. It just looks like they're warriors, man. It look like they're about to sort of beat you down in the game. To face off with these guys, to come on the court and look at these guys must have been such a sort of like you've already lost the mental game, because like Jordan has been like, he looks like he's been dwarfed. He's dwarfed by these two, like, bro. These just look like they're the best, to be fair. I've really enjoyed this video, but yeah, this video has this picture has really sort of interested me a lot. It does look like one of those sort of pictures that's just like held in high regard. Maybe I'm just rambling here, but it looks legendary, man. I really like it. That sounds very wrong. I really like it, for God's sake. But this is a class video, man. Let's see the comments. Let's all hope Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert will survive this disease. Oh yeah, they were fine from what I've heard. They've all taken it. Because this is when people are really, really scared of the disease. Like, now we've sort of learned a bit more. It's still scary, of course. Imagine Kawhi, LeBron, and AD. Did that really almost happen? Oh my God. Anthony Davis, LeBron, and Kawhi together would be disgusting. Oh, that would be disgusting. That's just exciting me. If that happened, oh my days. Okay, we'll be shutting down. People are just talking about the virus, right? Greatest player, MJ. Greatest duo, MJ and Pippen. Greatest trio, MJ, Pippen, Rodman. Greatest team, MJ's Bulls. Whoa, that sounds wrong again. But like, that's a very good point. I mean, the dominance that they had when MJ was there, and Pippen. I don't want to just say like MJ has all the credit, because I mean Pippen, from what people are saying, is one of the best players as well. But it goes to show, man, like back then they were just an absolute force to be reckoned with. But yo, this is a banging video, and sorry for it being a bit late, but I've just sort of had to set a few things up, and I've got a new thing like, on my mic, so like hopefully you don't catch my breathing as much, and I had to set that all up as well. But yo, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Until next time, like, subscribe, peace.